Okay. Again, I apologize. Time got away from me trying to put out fires at work. I do want everyone who's on here to know today is a very important day in our class. This is kind of the foundations of Westlaw and using Westlaw to research. And because of that, I am recording this, which I record every class, but I will post this recording so that you can go back and access if need be. I will be giving out a lot of information and it will probably be overwhelming to some of you, if not all of you. And so for that reason, I want to allow all of you to have access to the lecture after today, so that you um, can do that. Yes, you should have gotten an email from like Thomas Reuters or however you want to say it to access Westlaw. Um, does everyone have access to Westlaw? I know we had a week off, so this may have really thrown a wrench
I
for
just
everyone.
haven't been able to verify my email address. Like it gives me technical issues whenever I try to verify my email address, even though I'm receiving the verification code.
That's really strange. So you're saying like it wants you to verify so that you can access your account, but you can't verify?
Exactly, exactly. Because when I try to enter it, it'll say, because I've gotten everything else set up, but when I try to verify it, it says we're having technical issues on our end, and I'm not sure what to do.
Mm. Anyone else experiencing that problem? Because that's weird. And I am not the IT person for
It might be the
Wesley.
browser she's using. What browser are you using?
I'm using Chrome.
Mm, Try Firefox and just see if it changes. Have you done that yet?
I don't have Firefox, so
Oh, it's a free download, so you can, I mean, it sometimes it helps to just change browsers.
I got you.
Yeah.
I had to switch to my phone to register because for some reason it wasn't working on my computer.
Okay, I'll try that.
To
I'm using
register.
Chrome and it's working. So
Wait, say that again, Kristen. Yours is working?
yeah, I'm using Chrome and I got it to work. So
Hmm. Oh. Um, Mia says her registration key is already in use. Yikes. So multiple people
Now,
are having problem
it
accessing
has said
Westlaw.
that for me too about my registration key. It has said that about for me too. But I think if you already made an account, I think that's what it's talking about because once you make your account like your username and your password, it'll then ask you for that registration key then. And then it'll log you into if you're using Sapphire like I am.
I didn't make an account though.
Oh, so I don't know that. So I think maybe make an account first and then try the code then.
In making an account, it's asking me for my registration key.
You're
Right.
saying it's in use? Mm.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Because it said that for me as well, but then I had to make a one pass account.
Yeah, in making the one pass account, it's asking for my registration key and it is saying it's already in use.
Mm. That's weird. Yeah. It was doing that for me for a little bit, but then it had like I guess I refreshed it and then I did the code again and then it worked. Because it was saying that for me too for a bit.
Alex, you're muted.
I appreciate it. I am hacking up a lung, so I'm trying not to cough into the mic constantly. I'm sorry that I am not able to solve these problems. the best solution I have is to email Alana because she is the one that sets up the registration for each of the individuals in the class. So that is my thought of trying to solve the problem, but it's not going to be a solution that gets you access like right now. But that's all I know how to do. I apologize. Um, with that, I would hope even if you're not accessing Westlaw right in this moment, one, this will be recorded, and two, you will follow along because I'm going to share my screen, of course, as I navigate Westlaw. Um, if that is doable for you guys. The only other suggestion, I guess you could say, is to literally give y'all, because I mean, I know too, it's a weird timing with the break. And we have, let's see, if I'm looking at the syllabus, we have class again next week, which I was going to kind of break up Westall into two parts to not overwhelm your senses. Um, and then we don't have class again, and then we're coming back again before the midterm. So my only other suggestion, which maybe all of you would be happy about, is to literally not have class today to make sure everyone has access before we start doing Westlaw. But I don't know how you all feel about that. I, of course, don't want to waste classes for no good reason. Um, but that's the only other thought I have at
I
this
would say
moment.
whatever they feel comfortable with. Like whoever's having trouble getting into it, I guess I would leave it up to them. I would hate to say no class and or have class and they feel uncomfortable. So maybe whoever's struggling to get in, I guess however they feel, because I don't mind either way. Just
I
chiming in.
agree. I agree.
I have a question. If we don't have class today, the assignment that is due next week will still do next week or
I will give an extra week.
okay.
So you have 2 weeks to do it. If that is the worry. Um, so
I think
that's
your ID for that to answer that question is your email. Did you try your email? I'm sorry, who was that? That I didn't mean to interrupt so rudely. I
no,
apologize.
no.
I did not, so thank you.
Yes, try your email real quick.
So the client ID, if I remember, it's been a hot minute since I used Westlaw. It's like if you have a client, John Smith, and you're working on, you can put his name in there, and it kind of helps you organize what you've already looked at.
I just put my name for it. Like, can you? Because I got in on freaking Safari, so on my computer.
I
Yeah,
just put class.
yeah, you don't have to, it doesn't matter what you put for
Okay.
that portion.
All right.
Yeah, generally it would be like in relation to different clients and things, but for our purposes, it doesn't matter what you do.
I did have another question about the assignment. Um, when we're citing relevant cases, do you want us to also cite the cases that were cited in the conclusion of that case?
I don't know if I understand
Like,
your question.
okay, so citing like relevant related cases to like number one is the one I was working on. So if I find a case that is similar and relevant, um, and I'm looking at the conclusion of that case, do you also want me to cite the cases that the judge cited in coming to the conclusion of that case?
Mm. I think that is up to you what you want to do. But I would also say wait till after today's lecture. Maybe that will answer your questions. If you're talking about the assignment for next week.
Yeah.
But I will say also that will be a discretionary thing for you. But maybe I will give you some clarity after today. But if I don't, ask me again. And then maybe we can address it. But I mean my short answer is it's up to you. It's in your discretion
It
what you want to do
depends.
with it. Say that again?
It depends.
It depends. Thank you. Always. I'm so glad that has stuck with some of you. It's a horrible thing. I should get t-shirts made, right? It depends. So with that being said, there is an assignment. Obviously, given some issues with accessing, also because I'm trying to break this lecture up into two parts. I've learned over the years, students are very irritated with me if I try to squeeze it all into a single lecture. So I've learned to break it up. I will give y'all 2 weeks. So I will change that in the syllabus and I will change the due date and I will email you guys in case you're already tuned me out after this class to say when it is due. I will give you 2 weeks. So, in other words, it will be due not March 3rd, it will be due March 10th. Even though we don't have class, it will be due by our normally scheduled class period, 6 p.m., March 10th. But again, I will send out an email in case you've already tuned me out. Um, as you work on it after today's lecture, as always, you can email me with questions and I will try my best to answer them. But without further ado, let's talk about today's topic, which is Westlaw. Yay! Yeah. I have posted things in our Moodle page. If you've just been on your break and refused to look online, please do it. It's so many useful things on our Moodle page. Of course, I have a PowerPoint, but I've also given you kind of little keys, I don't know what else to call them than little keys for the different symbols and what they mean on Westlaw. Um, and I think that's very useful for people who've never used it and have no idea what they're looking at. So go check it out. Um, I'm pulling up my PowerPoint. Great, beautiful. Here we go. And I'm going to share it. Hopefully you all can see it. Okay. So again, here we are. Let's talk about Westlaw. Valentine's Day just happened, and this is my poor attempt at trying to make this fun. I can't think of anything more boring than talking about Westlaw. But we will talk about Westlaw. There is also this, there are two other platforms that are similar to Westlaw, and I want to show them to you. I will do that next week, but I don't want you all to be overwhelmed because I'm not going to test you on it. Obviously, none of you have access to Lexis, and I don't expect you to. I do, just in my day-to-day job. And so I want to show it to you because if you work at a firm that uses Lexis versus Westlaw, I don't want you to be shocked and I want you to have said, "Oh, I've seen that before. No big deal," and not freak out, right? But I'm not going to test you on it, so just bear with me. I care that you understand Westlaw. Westlaw is the most used, but it is also the most expensive platform, which is why some firms or solo offices don't access Westlaw. Um, you don't have to log into Westlaw for today's lecture. Obviously, I'm going to do it. And so if you just follow along with me, hopefully that helps you. And of course, I will post the recording. And you'll need access to Westlaw to do the assignment, but I'll give you 2 weeks to do it. Okay. And we're going to do some practicing together today, if we make it that far. Okay. So, what is Lexis, Westlaw, Fastcase, these words I'm using? I just said it, but I'll say it again. It's like a platform, right? It's like Google. It's a tool for the legal people in the world to conduct research. And so it's like you're typing in things that you're looking up, just like you would in Google, and you hit enter and it returns searches, right? And you can browse through those and try to figure out if some of it is helpful to you in the research that you're conducting. Um, I just kind of said which to use is very dependent on the amount of money the firm that you work at has, because Westlaw is very expensive. So a lot of them use Lexis, and Fastcase is something kind of separate that's the least expensive. It's free actually, and all lawyers kind of have access to it. And so I just want to show it to you. But again, it's more of a money-driven thing. Each of these things have AI features. For the purposes of this class, we will not be accessing the Westlaw AI. I personally have access to it. AI is a blessing and a curse. Um, it is a great tool to help you, but it is not something that will replace you. And I want to give a strong, 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 seriously strong warning to each and every one of you when conducting research. If you use AI in any fashion, ChatGPT, Westlaw's AI, whatever it is, you can have your AI do something called hallucinate. And if you're not familiar with AI terminology, hallucinations is basically the AI is eager to please you, and it will create fake cases and fake laws and fake citations and fake quotes to get you the answer that you're looking for. And if you don't believe me, for whatever reason, or you think I'm just telling you this because I don't want you to use AI in your day-to-day life or for this class, could be farther from the truth. Um, there was and since you're all in Louisiana, this is great. I got this email Sunday, which I should have put in the PowerPoint, but it was too late. But I'll pull it up on my phone. The Advocate in Louisiana posted an article about a lawyer in Covington using AI to write a brief, and he got caught because it was making up fake cases, and the judge and the judge's staff were checking his citations and realized AI wrote it. And now he is getting blasted in the news and by the Bar Association. So, um, if you don't believe me, let me see. What is his name? John R. Walker. He was admitted to the bar in 1983. He's been in the legal profession for 43 years. And he was using AI to write briefs. And he filed a motion that included quotations and case law citations that are just not real. And I mean, my phone is bright and you can't see it, but I'll post the link to this Advocate article so that you all understand I'm not just saying it to say it. But yes, so careful with your AI. It's a feature, just be careful. So enough of my soapbox. There are some kind of key features that I'm going to talk about for the purposes of this class. I could teach a whole semester on just the use of Westlaw because there are so many features that it covers that we will not discuss. I'm concerned that you have the foundational understanding of using Westlaw, and so these are kind of the things I have decided that you need to know to be able to do research. And so that's using the search bar, jurisdiction selectors, filters, how to save things into folders and highlight, understanding what a key site is, and then the language you choose to use in the search bar to conduct searches matter. And we'll get into all of that either today or next week. So I'm going to use some kind of words and I want you to understand what I'm talking about. Terms. When I say terms, what I'm talking about are the keywords you're using in the search bar. So, just like at Google, Westlaw has a search bar. And I want to show it to you. Let's see if I can swap my screen real quick. Okay, let's not be on this. Let's do this. Okay. So this is kind of when you first log into Westlaw. We were talking about the client ID and whatnot. I'm just going to hit start a new session because it doesn't really, oh my gosh, please come on. Um, don't do this to me, Westlaw.
That's what it keeps doing to me. It just keeps going in circles like that.
I know it heard me talking, and so now it's gonna give me grief. Come on now. Okay. And we're in. Sorry to all you people that still have problems. Okay. So we're gonna start a new session. What are we doing? Here we go. Okay. So this is like kind of the home page, so to speak, of Westlaw, right? There's all kinds of things on this page, but what I'm talking about is up here, this bar, right? This is what I'm calling the search bar. This is where you put your terms. And so this is what I'm referring to if you're a visual person and you need to just see Westlaw. And so what you enter here matters. Just like in Google, when you're searching for something, if you change a word or two, it may return completely different things, right? And so what you're putting in matters. And so the terms you use have to be very literal. So in the PowerPoint, I give the example, if you're looking for something about dog bites, you may go, okay, I'm going to enter the search term dog. Well, if you do that, it is not going to return stuff that use the word, I don't know, canine. Okay. It's technically a different word, but you and I know that that means the same thing. But if you don't tell Westlaw that you're looking for both of those things, it's only going to return what you're putting in. It's a very literal tool, right? So it can't read your mind and know that you mean just anything related to dog. Um, and that's what I was talking about in the PowerPoint, that, you know, you need to kind of put more words. And you do that by adding what are called connectors. Connectors are the in between words. So, like I was just saying, if you wanted to look up something about dogs, but you're aware that maybe they might use the word canine, you could use a connector called and. And so, when you come to this search bar, you may put the word dog and then put and canine. And look, when I start doing that, it's highlighting, it's finding those words within whatever case or statute or whatever that exists. But does everyone understand the concept that I'm talking about, that you have to be more literal? It will not just return any and everything associated with dogs. That's just one example that came to my brain. Do people have questions so far? Because please stop me before I really get going here if you have questions. And there are no dumb questions. I promise.
I have a question. Like in this example, you use dog and canine.
Mm-hmm.
But that and means it would bring up those things that have just both in them, or would it be like dog or canine and it would bring up anything related to dogs or canines?
Oh, thank you, Kristen, for segueing into my next slide. Beautiful.
Sorry.
No, you're great. Like, this is great. You're right on the money. You're thinking through, and I'm glad that you're in it, that you're actually listening to what's coming out of my mouth. So, uh, let me show you this PowerPoint again so we can talk about those things. This is what we're talking. Oh, sorry, Ariel, do you have a question?
Yeah. So I just wanted to know if you capitalize the and in dog and canine, does that have to be capitalized? Like put in all caps or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's to distinguish. It tells the computer it's like your connector. Um, so yes. So we talked about using the and then you were talking about or, Kristen, right? And that's what I'm getting at. So obviously, if you put and, it has a very specific meaning to Westlaw, which means like it's looking for both of those things. And so both of those words would have to exist within whatever you're looking at, whether it's a judicial opinion, a statute, a regulation, or whatever the heck you're looking for, right? It would look for both of those things in it. If you use the word or, which is a different connector in Westlaw, it is a connector, that's saying either. So if it just had the word dog in the judicial opinion, it'll pull that. And if it just has the words canine in it, it'll pull that too, and feline and cat, right? They all don't have to coexist in the same document. Does that answer your question, Kristen? And that was a great question because it is very important that people understand that, right? If it makes sense to you too, by what I just said, using the or broadens the net, so to speak, right? It broadens your search. So it will pull in more things because you're not limiting, it has to have both of these things within the same thing, right? So it's broadening your search results and you're more likely to pull more information from Westlaw. Does that make sense to people?
Yes, I just remembered using keywords like that when I used to use like, like EBSCOhost, like those online
Oh,
libraries
yes.
for school.
Yes. I haven't heard that term in a long time, but yes.
I have a
Ugh.
question. Just to refresh my memory, and sorry if it's like really basic. I
No,
kind
don't
of forgot,
apologize.
but is this limited to, this is just all the cases that were published? Is that what you were saying? Or is it limited to like, this is only like our area? Like I kind of forgot,
No,
like
no.
what is how, I
So
guess.
yeah, let's
You
back
understand
up
my
then.
question?
No, no,
Sorry.
yes, I do. I think I do at least. And if I don't, if I'm like talking and you're like this is not what I'm asking, stop me. Okay? You can interrupt me anytime. Like I said, judges interrupt me all day every day, so I'm used to being interrupted. It's no big deal to me. Westlaw is, think of it like the World Wide Web. Okay? Westlaw will give you access to literally anything that exists in the legal field. I have it set to Louisiana right here. This is what we were calling I just haven't gotten to that slide yet, but again, this is great because I'd rather have an actual conversation about it than me just lecturing at you, right?
Okay. That's good to
So,
know though that you can limit it though, because that's kind of overwhelming
right.
to go
And
out.
that is a big thing. And that's why I was saying most people, when they first access Westlaw, it's like, holy shit. What do I do with this giant thing with so much potential information, right? And so there are ways to limit, and I'm going to teach you those th ways because you obviously can't look through every legal document that exists in the world. That is not possible, right? So that's why you have to know how to utilize Westlaw. Otherwise, you will be overwhelmed for the rest of your career, or you'll switch careers because this is so painful, right? And I don't want that for anyone. So yes, think of Westlaw like the World Wide Web, and unless you tell it otherwise, it will pull from any and every court. So because you asked Sydney, I want to show y'all just base level. Let's say I'm going to uncheck Louisiana. You have to select something. It will not let you just do full on crazy mode, as I call it. You have to select some kind of jurisdiction, but you could click all states, which to me is crazy, but let's do it. And I'm going to select all federal, which is basically telling it to do everything, right? I'm going to hit save. So now you see here in my bar, it says all state, and federal, right, as my jurisdiction. I'm going to come over here and type in the word, something that I know is going to return a million things. In my world, I'm constantly looking at the Fourth Amendment. And I'm just going to hit enter. Just I'm typing that phrase, Fourth Amendment. And let's just see for just example purposes what comes back. And it's going to load forever because I can't imagine how many things are about to pop up. Okay. So just cases, right? We're not even looking at statutes or anything else. If you see up here, there's 10,000. You and I don't have time to read 10,000 cases. Absolutely effing not. So again, you need to learn how to use Westlaw to help yourself. And that's why we do things. As you can see, it's highlighted because I put in Fourth Amendment, right? But anyways, you see up here, there's something called a filter. See this right here? I'm going to click it. And what happens, Sydney and everyone else, please, for the love, listen to me if you've tuned me out. This filter is your friend. Filters are your friend. I'll say it again. Filters are your friend. Oh my gosh, please use them. This is your way to narrow it to what you're looking for. And now you can search within your results and do it more precisely. So like we were talking about, if you wanted to just look in Louisiana, go to your jurisdiction, come down to your state right here. I mean, just in the state courts, it's returning 2,054. I'm going to search for Louisiana. Oh, look at that. 17. We've narrowed it to 17. I'm going to click that, right? Or maybe you want to look at federal U.S. Supreme Court only too, right? Or something. I don't know, which is 184. And I'm going to hit apply. And obviously it will update. And we went from 10,000 to now 201. I mean, that's still a shit ton. Don't get me wrong. No one has time to read 201 cases, but you've definitely narrowed it substantially. And so again, you can then filter in other ways. Maybe you know, because we've talked about it, newer cases generally are better, right? Like we don't want a case from 1894. We want like maybe the 1990s and newer, preferably, right? So I'm going to come here to where it says date and go, let's just do the last 3 years. And looky there, that brings it to, I'm going to hit apply. You have to hit apply to 4. Now we're down to 4. We started at 10,000 and in a matter of seconds, we've limited to 4 cases. Does that make sense? Like you have to know how to use it. Otherwise you'll be miserable. Does that make sense, Sydney and everyone? That was not a dumb question at all. It was very useful. So yeah, Westlaw is like open-ended unless you tell it otherwise. So it can be overwhelming. Okay, back to the PowerPoint. So we were talking about connectors, right? There are lots of connectors, more than I've told you, because I don't want to overwhelm you. But these, to me, in my opinion, and I guess I'm the boss today, so I get to tell you what I think are the important ones that you know, because these are the ones that are most commonly used, in my humble opinion. So we've talked about or, right? It's about either. It can be both or either. So it's a much broader kind of search criteria than and, right? It's a broader net that you're casting than the use of the and connector. There's also called, it's like, I call it the same sentence connector. It's this little /s. So you're telling it to search for both of these terms within the same sentence. So it's way narrower than the and. So and is just saying both of these terms exist somewhere in the same document. Using this /s is saying I need these terms in the same sentence. So if we go back to what I was just talking about, maybe the Fourth Amendment and dogs, maybe you're looking for a dog search of a car. You know, they use a dog to sniff a car for drugs. So you're looking for the search of a vehicle with the use of a dog. So you may want to tell it it's in the same sentence, right? Because it's narrowing the specific issue you're looking for. So that would be an example for the same sentence. Then you have same paragraph. That's this /p. And it's telling Westlaw to look for these terms within the same paragraph. And then this /n, it's like the number criteria. And what number I mean is you replace the n with an actual number. And whatever number you use is telling Westlaw to search these terms within so many words of each other. So I know, bear with me. Let's talk about the same sentence that we just said. If you were talking about Fourth Amendment, dogs, searching a car, sniff, sniff, drugs, right? And I said that's a lot narrower of a scope that you're telling Westlaw to search within. The number is even smaller. So if you're telling Westlaw, like, I want the word dog within 2 words of car, then you would maybe put dog slash to car, right? Or here I gave an example of outside of the criminal world. If you're looking at the bankruptcy of particular airline companies, if you just use the word airline, there's a million cases that have nothing to do with bankruptcy that deal with airlines, right? People sue when they fall at an airline. People sue when they get hit by the cart that's coming through, that gets whacked in the shoulder and they sue for damages or whatever bullshit they come up with. So, I mean, Westlaw will return all of that. But if you tell it like, hey, I'm looking for bankruptcies of an airline, and I'm looking for obviously if it's a bankruptcy of an airline, that's going to be very close in the same phrase almost. So you're using this number connector to limit it to those specific searches. Does that make sense? I feel like I'm throwing a lot of words at you. That might just be like right over your head. So please stop me if I'm not making sense.
To clarify, I guess I'm overthinking that with the end with the number. So is it like the words in between the two? Like you said, dog, and I can't remember so like dog something something car.
Yes. So
Okay.
like you're saying, I want the word dog and car within 2 words of each other.
Okay.
So like if you say, like for example, in a judicial opinion, it may say there was a dog search of a car. Okay. Dog search of a car. That's 5. So you may say dog car. There's 3 words in between. So you may put dog slash 3 car. So
But
you're helping yourself. Does that
even
make
words like of and a, that those wouldn't be like fillers. Those are like one.
Potentially. So I
Okay.
will say the use of Westlaw, which is helpful, for someone like me, not so much someone like you, is over time, just like any kind of AI or tool, it kind of learns your habits. So like it's basically picked up over the years. Obviously, I do criminal work and I look at a lot of murders and a lot of constitutional issues. So it starts trying to like guess where I'm going based and help me generate search terms because it knows, given my search history, because it keeps track of your history of what you're looking at. And so over time, it's gotten better at helping me because it's picked up my own habits in searching, right? Like what the issues I'm looking at. But for you guys, yeah, you're at the base level of it knows nothing about you and you know nothing about it. So it will pick up everything you do and not know what to make of it. But yes, short answer, yes. Potentially, it will pick up your ofs or other stupid words in between. But yes, so that's what the number connector is. Does that make sense? Again, it's a way to just make it a much narrow net, as I said, instead of a broad search, right? You're narrowing what is being sent back to you. Okay. Boop. Back to this. We've got more connectors. Bear with me. I tried to limit them, but there's just so many and they're so good. So here's a few more. This is called a root expander. And the root expander is just the exclamation point, not the parentheses. I just didn't know how else to distinguish it in my PowerPoint. So the exclamation point is a root expander. So the example I'm using here is about if you use the word object. Well, we say object, and that's a legal phrase, not object, right? And then we might say someone objected, or I have an objection, or this person was objecting, right? Those are different endings of the same term. And that's what the root expander is telling Westlaw. I'm asking you, Westlaw, to retrieve all variations, so to speak, of the word object, right? That's the purpose of the root expander. Does that make sense to people? It's like variations on the same word. That's the only way I know how to explain it. Then there's something called a universal character. This is like it's just the little star, the little asterisk, whatever you want to call it. Um, Again, it's like a variation tool. So instead of having multiple endings, it's like the change of one letter. So the example I use is withdrew versus withdraw. Again, it's like a past versus present tense of the same word potentially, right? Or like there's just one letter off. So when you put in that little asterisk, you're telling Westlaw basically, I want you to search for this word and this little place where I put the asterisk can be different. So again, a variation of it because Westlaw is so literal. So if you only use the word withdraw, it will only find withdraw. Does that make sense? Yes. Do I still have you? Okay. Another, sorry, excuse me. Then the one I use the least is this hashtag symbol or pound, whatever you want to call it, which is to tell it, no, I actually do want you to be literal, and I don't want you to ever think anything other than what I'm telling you to think, Westlaw. So I'm going to tell you to look for damage, not damages, nothing else, just damage. Be very literal, Westlaw. And that's the use of this pound symbol. Does that make sense,
I
Sydney?
just thought of a question. I can't think of another example off the top of my head, just being a little bit tired, but you were reading a object and I heard you say like object. So in an instance where like a word could be technically read in a different way, like is there a way to clarify? Because I know that there's multiple English words like that sound different but spelt the same.
Yes. And so you're right. That is why Westlaw is a blessing and a curse because again, it is a tool, a computer tool, and it does not understand what you're telling it, or like you said, the literalness of it. And so, perfect example is the object versus like objections that we do in court, right? And that's why you can do multiple connectors and terms in your search bar. So that way it's helping you tell Westlaw you're giving it more context clues, so to speak, right? So that it can pick up one that you're looking for a specific object, not an objection, right? So when you look, I think this was my next slide, maybe. Yes, was it? Let's see. Yes, it was. Which is, I gave an example at the very end of the slide to show you how intricate it can be. I don't expect you to be this intricate, right? It was just my way of showing you like you can get very intricate in what you're telling Westlaw with your use of connectors and terms to limit because otherwise it will return so much, which is overwhelming and painful. And so I had kind of, mentioned this earlier about sniffing dogs on car stops, right? And so I may have a case that it's clear to me it's a very specific issue, which is like my client got tased outside of his car, which is insane to me, and they used a dog to try to sniff at his trunk, of his car, right, to detect drugs, and I know all of that, so I'm telling Westlaw a very, very specific, nuanced thing, and it will return very, very specific things to me because I'm being so intricate with my terms and connectors, right? But otherwise, no, it will not pick up on your differences, which is frustrating, Sydney. Um, The other kind of connector or thing, which I hardly ever use, quite frankly, but every once in a while I do, so I included it, is this thing called a search term emphasis. Um, it basically is telling, Westlaw, like this is the really important thing for me. And it's this caret symbol, this little upwards V, right? Um, and I've used it in the example at the bottom, right? So the things that matter the most to me is the taser. So I'm telling Westlaw that, right? Or the tire, trunk tire. So when you look at this example that I'm showing you, I'm telling Westlaw, I want dog canine in the same paragraph as detect, but detect can have multiple endings. I use the root expander, so it can be detected, detecting, detects, whatever, right? And that needs to be in the same sentence as drug, which is in the same paragraph as the trunk with emphasis on the tire. Like, see what I'm saying? This is absolutely absurd, but you can get that absurd if you really want. I just don't think that's necessary, though. I say all that to say I don't think that's necessary. If you can use the other tools on Westlaw, then your search terms don't have to be quite so intricate. And that's why I said the filter bar is your friend. Um, Questions about the connectors and terms I've used thus far? Oh, sorry, someone put in the chat and I wasn't even looking at the chat. Is the second word included in the number? What do you mean?
You pretty much answered it.
Oh,
I
okay.
was asking the same thing that she was.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I totally missed the chat. Um, any other questions so far? No. Okay. Now, one other kind of thing, and I do think this is really important, unlike the emphasis tool, is this plus and minus usage. Again, because Westlaw is so literal, it kind of like what you were just saying, Sydney, it doesn't know what you mean. And here's another example for you, Sydney. There's something in the law called a RICO violation. If you don't know what that is, I don't have enough time to explain it to you. It's quite intricate and intense. Google it in your free time. It's fascinating though, but they're called RICO charges. Um, and that's a very specific legal thing, right? But again, Westlaw doesn't know that if you're not telling it that. And so it might return to you Puerto Rico, right? Which has nothing to do with a RICO violation. That is a completely separate thing. But it wouldn't know that. So it just sees the word RICO, RICO, and goes, oh, there it is. Here you go. So everything involving Puerto Rico may come back too, if you don't tell it otherwise. And so there's this thing called a plus minus for including and excluding terms. And so you can tell Westlaw, I'm looking for Rico and use the minus symbol for Puerto Rico, aka please exclude Puerto Rico when you search, right? So you're helping Westlaw understand what you're looking for. Does that make sense? Yes.
I have a question about that. Oddly enough, Rico is the name of somebody I went to school with. So, is there any way that you can exclude names in searches like that?
Yes, to an extent. Um, Obviously, if it's if it's something like if you have a friend named Rico and you know his first and last name and you're looking for him specifically, then great, use that, right? But if you're trying to exclude everyone with the name John Smith. Um, I mean, I don't think, honestly, now that I'm thinking this through, I've never run into an issue of it returning the name of an individual when I'm looking for something like in the legal world. But I guess maybe because I've never dealt with clients named Rico, only actual Rico cases. So I've never had that problem. So when I'm looking in Westlaw, it doesn't return cases involving individuals. Um, because also truly, if you think about it, us lawyers are very formal and boring, and so we normally just use people's last names. If it's like defendants in a criminal world, we refer to everyone by Mr. or Miss, whatever their last name is. So the judicial opinions generally refer to them that way as well. Um, but I've never had that problem. But yeah, you could tell it to exclude that if you had a specific term you knew that you don't want it to include, sure. I've just never ran into it personally. But great question. I'm curious now. I might try it out for Rico. Um, any other questions about these connectors terms so far? Because we're going to move on to a completely separate topic. But before we do that, I want to actually share. Oh, Sydney said, fun fact, Diddy's case refers to Rico. Yes, it did. If you follow the Diddy drama.
I just made that's how I learned that.
Uh,
I was like, wait, I've heard that before.
yes, Diddy's case did refer to it. Uh, not the first time it's been used, but yes, obviously a very famous case, so more people got interested in the legal world. Um, so I want to show you on Westlaw kind of another way to use terms and connectors. Again, I told you the filters are your friend. So I'm going to go back to the very beginning homepage, right? And I told you you can put terms and connectors here, right? So if I did dog and or automobile, right? Uh, maybe this is what I do. Okay, I don't know. I'm just making shit up as we go here. And I hit enter. Um, it's returned me 9,977 cases, right? Again, I've set no jurisdiction filter, so we can come over here and do that on the filter bar on the side, as I just showed you earlier, by coming down here and doing that. But what I didn't talk about, which is also equally useful, is to click right here where it says search within results. Because when you do that, it allows you again to use connectors and filter this way too. So it's like searching within your search results, if that makes sense to people, another way to say it. And so Westlaw gives you a cute little cheat sheet, right, that you could use too. Um, again, see like this plus S, I didn't get into all that. That's like above my pay grade and above what I expect from you all. But so there's more, connectors than I've talked about, but it's a cute little cheat sheet. But you can come into this document and then, search further to limit what is being outputted to you. So this whole search within results, very useful tool. And you don't even have to use connectors. If you just have a very specific term, like maybe you're only looking for cases that talk about cocaine. I know my world is weird. I might hit apply, and I went from 9,977 to now 5,000. So, you know, almost 4,000 cases didn't deal with cocaine. Only 5,000 do, right? But you get my point. It's a silly example, but you get my point, I hope, nonetheless, that even just using terms can help you narrow and find exactly what you're looking for with whatever client issue you have or your firm has, right? Um, that's the best way to use Westlaw to help yourself. But does that make sense? Do people understand how to use the filters, how to use the search within the search results, right? You can search within the document. Yes. Okay. Now, I'm going to click on a random case. Let's look at, since we're all here in Louisiana, I'm going to look at the federal level, but only in the Fifth Circuit. When I do that, I get 120. Here, wait, oops. Let me share back. Okay. So I came over here to the jurisdiction, right? I've still got my cocaine filter and whatever. But I came over here and said, you know what? I'm in Louisiana. I'm looking for federal cases, but Louisiana is in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeal in the federal world, right? So I'm going to limit my searches to just the Fifth Circuit, which will come down to 121 cases. Okay, I'm going to hit apply. Remember to hit the apply button so it will actually apply. And I'm just going to click on this first one. And you see how there's this first case, US v. Zamora. And then number 2 is this US v. Williams, but there's this thing right here, this yellow flag. And you may be wondering, what the hell is that? And that's what we're going to talk about now. What are these flags? Because there's a lot of them, and they mean things. So let's talk about it. They're called a key site. That is the term lawyers, legal people use, is key site. And what it is Westlaw. It's their tool to let you know what is still good law. It is validating what is out there. And so what do I mean by that? Well, just like with connectors and all that, there's different colored flags and they mean different things. So make yourself a little key, or you can look on Moodle because I just gave it to you. And so we're going to talk about what each of them mean. But basically, they're little flags to help you know whether this is good law that you can use to cite to or not. And so you just saw like that little yellow flag. And a yellow flag basically means caution, right? You can think of like normal traffic colors, like that's what these are. And so it's like a caution. It's not a straight up, oh, this is bad law, but you may want to look into it. It might have been criticized by other courts or limited in some way. In other words, yellow means caution. You need to do some investigation to figure out if it's worthwhile to cite to when conducting your research. Red, as you might have imagined, means no, bad, negative, not good law. So it's been reversed or something's going on and it's bad. And then there's a blue stripe flag. That is a symbol that lets you know that an appeal has been filed. And why that matters is basically saying like this is ongoing, right? So whatever this court ruled might be overturned because it's up on appeal right now. So it's kind of letting you know like this is still an ongoing matter. So just be aware, right? And that's what the blue stripe flag means. Those are the least common things you'll see. The most common obviously are red and yellow. A whole lot of yellows. But again, yellow does not mean bad, it just means caution, right? And so when you see this caution that I'm talking about, and you need to do investigation to figure out is it good or bad, like is it okay to use or not, there is something called the negative treatment tab. And I had this mentioned on this slide, but I want to show you it on Westlaw because that would be silly of me not to. So I'm going to share my screen again to Westlaw and go back to what we were looking at with our cocaine dog car situation, right? And I told you this first case doesn't have a yellow flag, so I'm going to click on this second one just for, example's sake. US v. Williams. Okay? This came out in 2005. Oh, and look here. Great example for us to see in the flesh how this case is not published. It is not reported. That should also be a ding ding to all of you. Remember, that would be a not as great case as a reported case because this case came out in 2005. So, you know, you should look into that. But regardless, you see this little yellow flag. When you click on the case, it'll tell you up here kind of the little summary of why they have this key site. And they're telling you it's been distinguished by this other case, which came out of the Northern District of California in 2013. Well, using your common geography sense, California is not in the Fifth Circuit. It's way on the other side of our great United States. So that's interesting. But the negative treatment tab is up here. You see this says negative treatment? If you click on it, it will bring you to everything that has criticized or limited or just talk mad shit about that judicial opinion. And here it's only this one that we know about out of the Northern District of California. But it will tell you what's going on. So this really isn't that great of example to show you because it can get pretty intensive. So I'm going to use what I know has lots of criticisms and controversies, which is Roe v. Wade, right? Everyone's favorite case. So I'm going to pull it up to show you what I'm talking about. So I typed in Roe v. Wade and I got 5,000 returns. So again, to show you how Westlaw just doesn't understand you necessarily and will return all kinds of things. Here's an example. This first case, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, has a red key site. Why? Because it's been completely overturned. Which is why also Roe v. Wade has a red flag next to it because why? It's been overturned. But we're going to click on it. Okay? So I can just show you what this does. So it tells you up here, this case has been overruled by Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health that came out of the U.S. Supreme Court in 2022, right? I know that from just reading this little sentence. But up here at the negative treatment tab, you see there's 270 things. Man, poor Roe v. Wade has gotten a lot of negative publicity from the legal community. So again, it has listed Dobbs first because it is most negative, because it literally directly overruled Roe v. Wade. It overturned it, right? But there's all these other cases that are listed as well. And if you notice, it says over here treatment overruling recognized by. And you're probably wondering like, what? This is all in reference to Dobbs because once Dobbs came out, right, everyone was like, holy shit, shit's hitting the fan. And all these courts had to implement and deal with this situation. And so these smaller courts, these are all district courts in the federal circuits, right, are coming out with these decisions. And so they're recognizing Dobbs and overruling Roe v. Wade, right? So that's why you see over here the depth, the little bar, as you come down, is very small because really all we're caring about is Dobbs, which Goes way in depth and directly overrules Roe v. Wade, right? Does that make sense to people? How to use the negative treatment tab. Questions about it?
So when you go into the negative treatment tab and you're, trying to use a case, cite a case, with a yellow flag, it just looking into why it has that criticism or it's limited can help you determine whether you can use it as applicable to if it's applicable to the case that you're dealing with.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, real world, instead of me just talking theoretical here, right? You have a client that comes into the law firm you work at, and they're wanting to get some information or help with their situation. You're asked by the lawyer to conduct the research to figure out if they can be helped or not. And so, when you're conducting your research and you see these yellow flags, it's a way for you to be clued in to go, huh, is this good law or not? I'm not sure, and I need to do some digging. And so you go to that negative treatment tab to see exactly what the yellow flag means. Is it really bad? And like this case has been just shit on for so many years. So like I probably should use something else, right? It's a way for you to know to move on to something better. Or is it just like a little caution warning flag that really doesn't mean all that much and you can still use it, right? So it's you doing your own digging to make sure what you're citing to is valid and probably the best thing to cite to for your client situation. Now, that negative treatment tab though is very different from something else called citing references. And citing references is a different tab on Westlaw. Because negative treatment obviously is giving you what? The negative treatment and only negative treatment. But citing references is going to give you everything that exists, oh, whoops, that has cited to Roe v. Wade. Good, bad, everything in between. So as you notice, the citing references tab has 33,000 plus results because this case is old and has been cited to a million billion times, right? And so the citing references tab is to help you find additional, right, cases to cite to. Like maybe you find a case that's really helpful for you, and then you go, huh, I wonder if there's more out there that's useful. A way to figure that out is by using this reference tab. And then you can go here to the cases and go, okay, what are all the other cases that cite to Roe v. Wade? Right? And I told you it can be good or bad. So of course it's recognizing Dobbs and all that because it directly overruled Roe v. Wade. So much negative shit, right? These are all negative. Eventually you'll get to the good from a long time ago, not in the recent past, but there are times where it's been referenced and it was cited to as good law, right? And so the citing references is much broader than the negative treatment tab. It's good and bad. And you can still come over here and use the filters within the citing references or organize it like right here it says depth. You could do oldest first, right? And change the way it generates the results. And so out of those 4,000, I'm going to go oldest first, which are the cases right after Roe v. Wade came out that cited to Roe v. Wade. So they're from the 70s. But see how you can play around with the different features of Westlaw to suit your needs, however you so choose. There's a million ways to go about it. Does this make sense to people? Just the usage of Westlaw. I think the most frustrating thing I find students have is because there's a million ways to go about it, I don't have some kind of formulaic way to tell you how to use Westlaw, right? It's kind of at your discretion. You may put in one search term or connector and end up at the same result as me, and I use different terms and connectors, right? But we all end up at the same point. There's different ways to all get to the same answer. So I can't just give you some A plus B equals C, because you may use A plus D equals C. Get my point? Um, which is frustrating to most people. But that is Westlaw in a nutshell. Now, before I bore you all to tears even more, why don't we try doing an example, if that's okay with all of you, to try to put it into practice, right? Okay. We're all in Louisiana, so I feel like this should be somewhat helpful to set our jurisdiction to Louisiana, right? So I'm going to set my jurisdiction bar to Louisiana. I'm going to go back and just try to go back to like brand spanking new, right? So I'm going to come over here to this jurisdiction bar. Remember, originally I set it to all state and federal just to search everything. But I'm going to clear all that and just click Louisiana. And you have to hit save. Okay. So now we are setting our jurisdiction just to Louisiana. And I'm telling you on the PowerPoint to use the terms Walmart and meat juice. Why? I'm just going to assume a client comes into your office. She slipped and fell in the butcher area of Walmart on some meat juice that was not mopped up, and she broke her poor little hip. And she wants to sue Walmart. And you have to look up the law and what her chances are at winning some kind of money out of Walmart. So, she slipped on some meat juice and it was at Walmart. So those are some good terms to use. That's very specific, right? And if you remember all the way back to our first lecture, I believe, we want it to be factually similar and legally relevant, right? So let's use those terms, Walmart and meat juice. So I'm going to type in Walmart and meat juice, or however you want to do it. I'm going to hit enter. Okay. When I do that, it gives me 34 cases. That's not too bad, right? It's not thousands, but I sure as heck don't have time, nor do I want to read all 34 cases, right? Judicial opinions, that would suck. So, what did I tell you? The filters are your friend. I'm going to just look for the highest court because I know in Louisiana, the Louisiana Supreme Court would be the best place to start. And when I do that at the filter side and click on Supreme Court only, we went from 34 to 4 cases, right? That's much better. So I'm going to hit apply. And when I do that, ta-da, right? We have really narrowed it down. And I tell you, you should only have 2 cases, but you don't. You see, you have 4, not 2, that my PowerPoint slide says. Does anyone want to guess why I have 4 and not 2?
Maybe because it was a different kind of juice.
Sure. Sure.
That's a red flag.
One of them has a red flag.
Yeah. Yeah. Welch has a red flag. They all have yellow flags or some kind of flag, right? Um, but I'm gonna look at these and go, well, this first one's 97. The second one is 2003. This one's 95 and a red flag.
Is it
And
that
this last one is 99. So I'm gonna go, you know what? Newer is better. Let's start with this Davis v. Witt, right? And I'm gonna click on that one and see maybe this is something worth my time because it's the newest. Um, and when you look at this opinion, you can see that I scrolled past all this crap. And some of you may be like, what the hell is that? They're called West headnotes. They are not the judicial opinion. It's Westlaw's way of creating little kind of headings for particular legal topics, some common legal topics. So here you can see for law enforcement, negligence and misconduct, right? They've created like a little topic that you can click on. But that's Westlaw doing it. That's not the judicial opinion. So you can skip and see over here to the left, you can kind of, instead of just scrolling with your computer, it has like almost like a table of contents, and you can go to the actual opinion and go just to the discussion, right? Or just its decree. And it will, if you click on it, it will bring you to that part of the decision instead of you having to scroll and like figure out where it is. So again, there's so many ways that it tries to make your life more efficient. Um, but let's go back to the beginning of the opinion. So this is where the opinion starts, right? Where it says opinion. And this Justice Knoll is the one writing this judicial opinion on behalf of the Louisiana Supreme Court. And you see, because I use these terms Walmart and meat juice, right here, the Walmart is highlighted because Westlaw picked up, oh, that word exists in this judicial opinion, right? And if you go down, you can see every time it's highlighted, and there's meat. But we're not talking about meat juice. It's looking at Guidry's specialty meats up here and in the parking lot of the meat market. That's not meat juices. So again, it didn't look for meat juice as a phrase. It just looked for meat and then potentially juice separately. So there's nothing about meat juice in this opinion. It's just meat in Walmart. Yes, Ariel.
Would it make a difference if you put like a dash in between meat and juice to kind of connect it?
That is not a considered connector, but we can try for just sake of. So I now have 21 cases. If we go to the Louisiana Supreme Court, I've added one case to the list of 4, which is this Achman, no, and Schwegman. I've returned completely different results from just the insertion of a dash. Isn't that crazy, people? This is why Westlaw gives me a headache sometimes. So no, not necessarily. The best way, which I don't think anyone picked up on in my PowerPoint, and I don't expect you to, is the use of little quotations. Or you could use a pound or plus sign, right? There's, again, many ways to go about getting to the same result. To me, I would do, oh, I'm going to go back here to the beginning. And yes, you hit the nail on the head in the chat. So I'm going to do this and put meat juice in little quotes. And what that is telling Westlaw, the quotations is basically telling Westlaw to keep it together. It's like a phrase, right? Not just any word. So when I hit search, we're at 21. And if you come to the filters at just Louisiana Supreme Court, guess what? We still have 5. So it really made no difference, but that's what I would have done. Rise, you said something else. You want to use the pound or the hashtag symbol?
I was just thinking that if you wanted to do like the exact phrase, but like old Boolean for EBSCOhost, like we mentioned earlier, yeah, the quotations will work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's similar to that, yes. But again, it's not a foolproof way. You know, it could, it's a finicky thing, right? It's a computer. It's not a real person doing the searching for you. So it sometimes doesn't make sense to you and I the way it returns searches. But that was kind of one way to think about using it. But Davis was the most recent case, right, that talked about meat, just not meat juices, and Walmart. But wasn't really on point, which is why you need to actually read. You actually need to click on the case and look at it and not just assume Westlaw has given you a great answer. To know if it's really on point, so to speak, with whatever it is that you're researching. Does that make sense to people? Yes, no, maybe.
I
Yes.
have a question.
Sure.
When you search the cases, like for example, the first one that you have over there, it says missing use. If we see something like that, that means that none of the cases will be relevant.
Wait, say that again. So if I see,
Yeah, like for example, on this Meat V toys, when you scroll down, it says missing use, missing
yes.
meat use, and there are
And
some
so,
other ones.
yeah. So that's a great way to also realize maybe if that is the issue, like I said, your client slipped on some meat juice at Walmart, right? Then this case is not for you. But I also think it might be obvious too from just um the title of the case, right? The case caption that it's versus Toys R Us. And you can see this little snippet without even reading the case about a customer's testimony. She didn't touch a toy before it fell on her. I mean, she's literally suing about a toy falling on her at Toys R Us. Like, this is not the facts we care about. Dude, people are wild. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, that's a great way though, Cynthia, to know that this is not something you should probably be looking at. So you could come down here and say must include, right? And if you click that and hit meat juice, then what happens? You're now left with two cases that actually deal with potentially. Um, the second one, which is about southern shellfish in the Office of Public Health, uh, is more about oysters. There's a lot of regulations about how quickly oysters have to be taken out of the water and put on ice and the temperature of those oysters and all that jazz here in Louisiana because we really care about our shellfish and seafood. And so this is not about slipping on some meat juice in Walmart. This is about the meat and juice within an oyster.
I
Um,
have,
yeah, yes. Whoever was talking. Sorry, I didn't see.
oh, when I'm looking over like the four cases that it pulls up, like I'm noticing at the top it says like torts, premises liability, torts, slip
Hmm.
and fall. So if
Hmm.
if my client slipped and fell on some meat juice in Louisiana, in Walmart in
Hmm.
Louisiana, wouldn't I be looking for other like slip and fall cases
Correct.
and not something like wrongful death, which is the
Exactly.
Davis?
Right. So, right, of course, obviously, as you understand legal language and different things, that's spot on, Kristen. And I think too that goes then to the connectors and words you use, which helps Westlaw understand what you're looking for too. So, I personally would have used the words slip and fall within my terms. So, I would have done slip and fall on some juice and then seen what Westlaw would have returned to me, not just put meat and juice in my search bar. So yes, Kristen, you would know there's a variety of ways to realize if this is helpful to you or not.
Okay, I was just making sure that I was like understanding.
No, no, yeah. And I will say sometimes cases may address multiple things. So if we go back to what I was just doing, I'm gonna go to my history. Okay. Um, Right, like you were saying, this says torts right here, right, and premises liability, and then this is like environmental law, right, and we're talking about like solid wastes, garbage removal of oyster shells at a processing facility, and so you can see from there what's more on point for you or not. Um, and I think too, again, I guess my point is, I just want you to be thorough and not just assume whatever Westlaw returns to you is on point and worth your time and effort, no matter what search terms. Because even if you had put in, I don't know, like slip and fall and let's see, Mm, do you see what happened to me, everyone?
Well, is it because you were just too particular?
Right, which is my point. You can be too particular, which then gives you no help, right? So that's why I always am trying to get people to understand it would be better to use really broad terms and then use the filter right over here to then narrow down. So start out big because it's easier to narrow than come back with nothing and then have to start all over again. Does that make sense? Like start with really broad terms, cast your net wide, and then from there go, okay, I've got 5,000 cases, but I want to look at the Louisiana Supreme Court only or only the last 3 years or whatever the hell is important to you to help you narrow and cast your net smaller, right? Start big, then go small.
And do you think with Walmart, since Walmart, I know you want to be like specific, but not so specific, but like you could have a case like the Welch v. Winn-Dixie, where a client slipped on meat juice at Brookshire's or
Mm-hmm.
HEB, Winn-Dixie, or wherever.
Right.
It's still a supermarket.
Right. So is that on point, Kristen?
I would I would say yes, that is
Okay.
on point because it's a supermarket.
Does anyone disagree? Agree?
Would that make any difference if each supermarket has like a different regulation?
I don't know what you mean by regulations. What do you mean by that?
Like, like for example, Walmart has a way to defend themselves, and probably Wendy's has another one.
Mm, Not in the legal sense of slip and falls. No. No. I think, Kristen, you are right, right? Like it is on point. Of course, right? Like I said, whatever time and whatever lecture I don't remember which one. As I always say, lawyers have nothing better to do than create something out of nothing. So of course, if you're left with only Winn-Dixie, but it's a meat juice slip and fall, then hell yeah, use that. But of course, if you can return cases and there's a variety of slip and falls on meat juices across Walmart, Winn-Dixie, and Brookshire's, or wherever the hell, Piggly Wiggly, whatever it is, I would be signing to all three of them and being like, Judge, look at all of these cases. They're from a bunch of different stores and where having slip and falls and the client, that slipped and fell is getting all kinds of money because that's a very dangerous hazard on the floor that was left there unattended for long periods of time, right? So Cynthia, I would say when you use the word regulations, that holds like a significant meaning to me in the legal field of like, obviously there are regulations that are like laws basically, but slip and fall in Louisiana in particular too has a very set standard kind of formulaic analysis of tort. That's like the field it falls under is a tort claim. And Louisiana has like this whole little um, factored list of what the courts analyzed to determine if there was a duty owed, was there a breach of that duty, what was the causation, and there's like this whole little thing. But that's a very specific thing to torts. Kristen, do you have something to say?
Muted. Sorry, I was just gonna say it's like their duties, like they knew or they should have known, or
Of the juice's presence, and they determine how long has it been there. For example,
yeah,
did
or
it
they
have the sign that says caution wet and you ignored
or
it? Right.
or maybe it was the second slip and falls at the store of the day on the meat juices, so they obviously knew the meat juices were there. I worked in personal injury, and it's yeah.
I mean, bless you. That's all I can say. Bless you. Not my forte. But you're right. There's all these factors, but there's this very specific list of factors the court considers in tort and in slip and falls. Because if you can imagine, Cynthia, and everyone who doesn't work in that arena, there is loads of precedent on slip and falls because everyone and their mother has sued companies for slipping and falling on various items, from bananas to meat juice to yogurt. I've seen, I mean, literally anything you can. Obviously, we just saw Toys R Us got sued for a toy falling on a woman. Like, there's so much law out there, judicial opinions and otherwise, about injuries to people, and then they turn around and sue businesses for their alleged injuries. So there's enough case law out there to go on to figure out how that would be handled in court because there's a
Berkshire
long line.
stays sued. Berkshire stays
Yes,
sued.
they do. You said it, not me though.
Oh.
But yeah, uh, there's all kinds of things for the personal injury world that's very specific to personal injury, if that's the field you work in. Um,
I have a question.
sure.
So I know that you said there's a whole bunch of case law, like in the case of like slip and falls that happens all the time. But
Yeah.
like we were looking at grocery stores, and of course, Walmart and Winn-Dixie and all those things would be relevant and similar. But if we move the location to like a hotel or like a church or something like that, is that still relevant to that? Like, is it still similar enough?
Well, that's a it depends answer. Sorry. Because it becomes very fact intensive. So if you're moving, like let's say you gave the example of a church and someone slipped and fell at a church, there are other legal implications because it is a church, even though it's a slip and fall case. So that's why I say it changes things. Again, lawyers create stuff out of nothing. So it depends. Because it just, people complicate stuff. But yeah, I mean, potentially. So again, like you also said, a hotel, like, I don't know, you have a client that slipped and fell on some ice at a supermarket and you find a case from a similar jurisdiction that's very new of someone slipping and falling on ice at a hotel, but the facts are super similar other than it being at a hotel, right? And it's favorable to your client. Sure, maybe you do use it. I just think though, don't limit yourself. Like use what you have, but be sure, like, is that the only thing out there? Like, is that really what is best? Maybe. I don't know. It's an it depends answer. But potentially, yeah, you could use it too. It's not completely crazy different. I think I'm more concerned that um if I'm talking about a slip and fall on a banana at a Walmart and you find cases of a roof leak that left water on a floor in a hotel and someone slipped and fell on that, that's too factually distinct, in my humble opinion, to be citing to. Does that make sense to everyone? Because I mean, it's a great
Yeah,
question.
that makes sense to me.
Yes. But there's no shortage. I have found that there is no shortage of slip and falls in every public place you could possibly imagine.
Yes, that is very true. Unfortunately and fortunately. That's why lawyers, we're all hated because we're the ones doing the suing of slip and falls and stupid shit like that. But hey, you make a lot of money doing that. Businesses have enough money to pay you out, right? That's the idea at least. So do y'all want to do another example or have you had enough of me for one day? I won't get my feelings too hurt if you've had enough of me, but we can do another example too if you'd like. So I got a bunch. Um, I think this one I will do, and then I'll leave you alone if that helps you guys. Only because I wanted to show you kind of another thing, which were I talked about the head notes, but they are useful tools. They're not the judicial opinion, but I want to at least just show you how they can be useful. So I'm talking about rear end collisions. Again, I'm trying to stay away from criminal world that I do, because that doesn't make up the bulk of the legal field. But let's just say you're looking for this case, Robinson v. Flowers, and it's again a Louisiana case. So um, I'm just going to type in Robinson v. Flowers to my Westlaw. Am I looking at the Second Circuit? Okay. So again, just like with slip and falls, I'm sure you can imagine there's loads of cases and laws out there that have been established when it comes to automobile accidents in whatever form or fashion, because people get in car wrecks every day, all day, right? And so loads of law exists regarding cars and collisions. So maybe you're looking up like a rear end collision that your client suffered and you're new to this, so you don't know what the hell the law is on it. Um, and so like this case, for example, is great because the head notes tell you kind of some already established legal things. And so this head note number one that I'm talking about is talking about rear end collisions in general and literally tells you what the law is on it, of who is presumed negligent. So if you click on this number one, it'll bring you to that head note within the judicial opinion to show you what it's talking about, which is a well-established presumption exists that in a rear-end collision, a following driver is the one that breaches the standard of care and thus is presumed negligent. And they even give you a statute in Louisiana that talks about that. And as you can see, it's hyperlinked. So if you really just wanted to keep going down this rabbit hole of research, you can click this. Or, as you see right below, it literally cites, like it quotes it. The revised statute 3281, which is the driver of a motor vehicle shall not follow another more closely than is reasonable and prudent, having due regard for the speed of such vehicle, blah, 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 bullshit, right? AKA, you should not be riding someone's ass in traffic, and if you do and hit them, it's your fucking fault in the nicest way possible, right? Like common, not legal talk. But that's basically what they're saying. If you're following someone and riding their ass, then you're the one that's presumed negligent because you're riding their ass. Okay? Um, and you are presumed that way unless, if you kept reading this judicial opinion, you proved lack of fault. And they give you a citation to a case that talks about that. So again, by reading this judicial opinion, it may lead to other judicial opinions and or statutes that may be very useful in the research that you're looking for a client with a rear end collision, right? So do you see how the use of head notes and just the judicial opinion in general could lead you down this rabbit hole of other cases and statutes? Questions about that? Um, okay. This case is very fascinating. You should read it if you want to read about rear end collisions and the law on that. So that way, the next time you're following someone's ass, you'll know when you're safe from fault and not. Hopefully, the person in front of you doesn't use their blinker to change lanes and you whack them. Then it's their fault, right? It's good to know the law in your day-to-day life. But like I said, I don't want to overwhelm your senses with Westlaw. We're going to talk more about Westlaw and other features next week. We haven't even begun to look at how to look at statutes or code articles on Westlaw, right? We've literally just talked about cases today and the use of different Westlaw features. So we're going to do that next week, and look at statutes and how to correlate that with cases and all that jazz next week. I just don't want to overwhelm you all in a single meeting when I don't have to. Yes, Kristen, you're right. Dash cams are the greatest defense in automobile accidents. If you have a dash cam set up in your car. I do not. I feel like Big Brother's watching me constantly already. I don't need to add to it. They've like hacked my systems. But anyways, so I do at least want to talk about assignment 2. Again, I will give you 2 weeks, right, to do it. I know, I forget who asked a question at the beginning of class about it. Hopefully I've cleared some of this up for you. We'll talk more about Westlaw next week, but at least let me introduce this assignment, right? Which basically is my way of trying to get you to practice using Westlaw and hypotheticals, because us lawyers love to use hypotheticals. And that's what we do in law school the entire time, is talk about hypothetical situations. But it's my attempt of trying to get you guys to practice using it to figure out how to conduct research. So again, it's just a practice mechanism, one, to prepare you for the midterm, of course, but two, for your real life practice as a paralegal. When a client comes in or a lawyer tells you like, hey, this is the issue, can you research and let me know what it says? You know how to get that ball rolling, right? And you don't feel lost. But that's the point of assignment number 2. So it is four questions where I've basically given you scenarios with clients and asking you to answer some client's question and give your cases, statutes, whatever that are on point to support your answer, aka conducting research. We have not talked about citations or anything in that realm, so I am not concerned about you having correct citations at this point, right? That would be completely unfair of me. I'm just, if as long as you can tell me the case name and enough information that I can look up on my end to make sure you didn't just create something out of thin air, that's all I'm concerned about, right? But otherwise, I don't expect you to do citations or any of that. We haven't talked about it. But that is the purpose of assignment 2. Of course, ask questions as you complete it. Because you have 2 weeks to do it as well, take your time and don't wait till the day before to do it and frustrate yourself. But we will meet next week to finish our discussion about Westlaw. Please, please, please look on Moodle for those supplemental materials. And the last thing I'll say too is, again, not required, but I did give you the option of using on Westlaw or Thomas Reuters or whatever you want to call it. They have kind of like courses you can take where basically you can get trained to use Westlaw, and you can get basically a certification through Westlaw. And I hyperlinked it at our Moodle page for today's lecture. So I would really, really suggest doing it, because also you could say on your resume that you are certified through Westlaw, right? That you've done the training, which makes it look nice for potential jobs in the future. But also for this class, right? So that you understand how to use Westlaw and don't feel so lost on the midterm. So I would highly suggest doing it, but you don't have to. It is not required for this course. It's just for your own gain.
How long is that valid for if you did something like that?
Your certification?
Yeah, for the Westlaw.
Forever, unless someone questions you and wants you to retake it. I would never ask such things. Forever. I would just say that obviously you're proficient in Westlaw. Like if an attorney or firm was like, "Hey, can you, do you know how to use it?" Like, "Yeah, I got my certification. So great at Westlaw." Right? But again, not required. Any other questions about assignment two and or Westlaw so far? I know some people were able to access Westlaw even though they weren't at first. The people who still cannot access Westlaw, can you please type in the chat like I cannot so that I have a list of names to send to Alana tonight so that I will email her literally right now the names of people who can't access it. Mia, okay, but you already emailed Alana. Well, great, you're on top of it, Mia. Anyone else cannot access Westlaw because you have to be able to access it to do the assignment and do the midterm. So, like, you really have to have access or you can't do this course. Okay, well, if it's just you, Mia, hopefully Alana gets back to you. If she hasn't by like the weekend, let me know, Mia, and I will follow up with her on my end to make sure that you have access. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions, concerns? Okay. If not, I will see you all next Tuesday. Thanks for bearing with me. And I'll stay on in case anyone has anything they want to talk about.